it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
Welcome to it. This is ZiFM Sport on a Thursday, Throwback Thursday, powered by DSTV. And yes, still in lockdown. This is a show that's short, sharp, and sweet as we take you closer to your sports stars. My name is Sean Tafirenyika. I'm the producer of ZiFM Sport. I hope you're still being safe. Now, tonight it's all about speed. Just this past Sunday, we saw an action-packed Styrian Grand Prix. And the week before that, we had the Austrian Grand Prix. Needless to say, we're just thankful that Formula One is back on our screens. Tonight, as we get closer to your sports stars, we'll hear from the best team in Formula One.
Hi, my name is Zugba Amute, Los Angeles Clippers small forward, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
When I say the best team, you already knew which team I was talking about. To say that Mercedes has been dominating the sport of Formula One is an understatement. They are absolutely owning it. So on that note, you know where I'm going with this, right? Tonight on the show, we'll hear from the man who drives car number 44, Lewis Hamilton. Now, just before the season started, broadcaster Martin Brundle, now he sat down with Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes chief Toto Wolff in a candid interview to discuss their role in Mercedes' success, contract negotiations, and they reveal how to cope with arguments within their team.
We've been on this journey together and we've joined the team together. And when I came in 2013, you don't really know what to expect from the relationships. But then when you have that strong bond, that your objectives are most of the time very aligned. And we, since a few years, we talk about things very openly. Say, I didn't like that, or I didn't appreciate that. Everything is being put out, so I think we have all of what you had, and because of that journey, joint journey.
Yeah, and it's definitely not just come easy. It's been over time we've built that. Over time, learning to trust one another, which is obviously always such an important value to have, and the respect and. We just continue to build.
So the team have won 3/4 of the races in the hybrid era. You've won just over half of them yourself. Do you guys chat and think, this is impossible, this is amazing? Do you sort of talk in disbelief at how amazing it's been, or is it just you've worked so hard for it, it's taken for granted?
I don't think we take it for granted at all. And I think that's why we continue to win, with the mentality that we have. And what's difficult is people that are watching, and I would almost also say you don't realize just how hard and the input that we are having and why we are winning. Because you get to drive the cars that you see us drive today, and you drive. You tell me every time I see you, this is the best car I've driven, and that's the best car I've driven. You said my 2008 car was the best car I'd ever driven. I said, you said, I swear I just watched you drive my car 2 years ago and said that was the best car. But it's really the dynamic that's back at the factory, all the people that are working flat out, and everyone in the right place, and everyone being open-minded and not set in their ways, which a lot of engineers can often be. But we kind of break in the mold each year, I think, even within ourselves. Even with Toto's views that maybe it had 3 years ago, they've shifted, and same for me. We're constantly breaking down these barriers and these shells and being dynamic.
I think what's interesting is that we don't take it for granted, and we don't feel any sense of entitlement of what happened yesterday. Almost yesterday had a funny moment. I think both of us forget about what has happened. You know, your mind almost erases some of the singular events because they have no importance as long as the learning stays up there. And you move on with the learning, but you stay both feet on the ground. And what you said is there's lots of hard work, lots of suffering behind it also.
Would you communicate every day, every week? Many times a day?
I don't communicate with anyone that often. I'm not really great at communicating on my phone.
Yeah.
I think I'm better in.
But you're always. I always see you on your phone. You're always on your phone at races and.
I guess the only person I'm really communicating back with is Ellen, my assistant. She's been with me for 17 years, but otherwise my world would stop basically. So
you don't send each other like jokey videos, naughty videos.
We do. Like on the race weekend, we message each other if we don't get to see each other during the day because he's doing media or whatever it may be. So he'll be back in his hotel, and sometimes we pop ideas to each other. And Sunday night often is probably the one that we do text each other mostly after, and the next couple of days because it could be really painful. And we're like, geez, I couldn't sleep last night. And Toto's like, I was the same. I've been up since 3 a.m. or whatever it is. So.
Don't you get edgy? You haven't heard from him for a week or two. You're thinking,
no, now we know.
Okay.
I always ask myself that question, but we have such almost synchronized behaviors that for 10 months we're traveling together and we see each other every weekend, and then almost when we shut down before Christmas, everybody needs to have his own space, and we have almost that felt naturally to respect it. And every now and then we would be sending WhatsApps to each other when you have an idea or I have one, and then we come back together beginning of February, and then it goes seamlessly into the season. So it feels very natural.
Can you read each other's minds or moods?
Not minds, but I think we can definitely kind of
moods. We
can sense each other. It's not reading someone's mood; it's more the energy. So I notice sometimes if Toto's down, I might not be in the case that day, and I try to lift him up, and vice versa. That's what we do. That's what teammates do. So.
And it helps because we between the sports star, obviously. Being the guy who sits in the car or who kicks the ball is very different to the role I have, but the stress levels are very similar, and the responsibility and accountability is very similar. So we know sometimes a nice WhatsApp or a nice message can help and send you a little bit on a better trajectory, and we do that.
Your birthdays are 5 days apart. Do you send each other cards, presents, messages?
You know, I'm really bad with remembering dates, particularly. The only one I really remember is my mum's birthday. But yeah, no, every year it's a surprise to me. Oh, well, Toto's birthday is just after mine.
12th of January, 7th of January.
Yeah.
You can put a little note in you.
I think that's probably why we get like that. It makes it easier being that big, both Capricorns.
February the 14th, kind of, Valentine's. Both
stubborn, both massively driven, and so that's probably why it works. I would say potentially.
I hate New Year's Eve and I hate birthdays because why is there a reason to celebrate on exactly that day? The one is just random, and the other one is just reminding you that another year has passed and you have grown older. It's just another day, and that's why.
The birthday is the worst one for me.
Yeah.
Because the period of time it's in, I mean, no one wants to party on the 7th of January because they're still recovering from New Year's.
From New Year's Eve, yeah.
And you don't get birthday presents because everyone spent their money and broke.
So you get any? I don't get any anymore.
I don't like having presents anyways in general. But so it's usually the period of time that I've just started training, which is not pleasurable at all. So it's just not a fun time.
When did the name Toto Wolff first come onto your radar?
Well, I barely remember like this December, so I don't really remember.
Same for me.
I would imagine it was when he was at Williams.
When he became a shareholder at Williams.
I noticed you around there, but I don't think it was quite a distant relationship, I would say, in the beginning, and then it just got, drew us closer, and naturally, I think just in life, you realize, okay, what are my goals? I want to win. I've got to figure out what people I need around me to achieve that, and that's what Toto does. So we're like magnets. We just drew each other to each other because I needed Toto to do what he does with the team, and he needed me to do what I do in the car.
What's your earliest memory of Lewis Hamilton?
Much earlier, obviously, because I was involved in DTM at an earlier age, and I remember when I was involved in DTM that in 2000 it was your first year in Formula 3 with Manor. There was a test in Valencia, and I remember that people were saying that Lewis Hamilton was such a talent, and I stood in the garage of what today is ART, and that was the team to beat. And Lewis was in a team where it was very difficult, and you came strolling over to the garage and looking at the cars, and I thought, that's interesting, because you must have been very young.
Yeah.
And then I have a photo, I don't know how that happened, with my godson and my son, who were both 3 or 4 or 5 years old, sitting on Lewis's race car with him in the middle, and in Formula 3.
You got that home?
Somewhere, yeah. The boys are obviously very proud.
2004.
That was 2000.
If I was in Manor.
No, that was the year then when you won. That was 2005.
2005.
Yeah.
Okay.
The boys are very proud.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Did you ever fall out, have a fight, have a shouting match?
Often. Falling out, yeah, but shouting match, no. Falling out.
Yeah, we don't. I think that's only natural, isn't it? We have disagreements. I don't think we really had we've never had like a bust up or anything like that. We have disagreements, but we talk it out. The thing is, I think we've just always been very transparent with each other. I think that's whether you like it or not, and I think that's been the why it's as healthy as it is, I think.
And how do you rejoin after a little bit of a fight? Is it like just never mentioned again, or does it sit and fester?
I think we're so similar. I think in our personalities. For me, I'll be like, I've got to go away for a couple of days, whatever, and I'll come back. And Toto's the same. He's like, I can't answer you right this second. I'll come back.
Yeah, because you have these agreements, and we had a discussion many years ago where I said I have often disagreements with Susie, but I'm not in any way doubting the relationship. I don't want a divorce, and I think we together on this journey with this joint objective, and I need Lewis, and the team needs Lewis, and Lewis needs the team, and that's why you don't need to discuss everything when emotions are high and everybody's tense, because then you're irrational, and he may be irrational, and then it will trigger an irrational behavior from me, which makes everything just worse. I think it's important to respect the distance a little bit and to let things cool down, and then we will put the finger in the wound and say, well, this is how I saw it, and the other would then say, well, no, I have a completely different perspective. And it takes a while until the waters calm down, but eventually we know that we are in this together, and for the benefit of all of us.
Communication really is so important now, because we're constantly both being interviewed. Yeah. There'll be times that Toto's interviewed, I don't even know he's been interviewed, and vice versa. And sometimes months down the line, they'll pick a single line or word and they'll twist it.
Well, and those terrible TV people.
The pundits, I guess. And then you'll see something in the news and you'll be like, hold on a second. Yeah, Toto,
how can you say that?
How can you say that? Yeah. He's like, I didn't say that. And so, and we've learned over time, because I think in the past, perhaps we would see something and it would frustrate you, and rather than saying something about it, you dwell on it for multiple days. And then we bump into each other and we're like, no, that's actually not what's happened. Yeah. This is actually, and so we find that nowadays, as soon as there's a problem, we pick up the phone. Yeah. And
sort it out
straight away. We see each other, sort it out straight away, and it's.
So this guy really fascinates me. You fascinate me, because I've been in F1 36 years. I've never seen anybody turn up and gain power, success, and monetize it in the way that you have. Not even close. Where did you learn how to do that? Because you're quite a latecomer to F1 in many respects compared to a lot of people on the scene. And now you're leading this great Mercedes team. Where did you learn to do that?
Timing.
He's a magician.
Is it your investment background? I know you were a frustrated racing driver, and you channeled that energy into some business.
I take it as a compliment what you say, but
it's meant as a compliment.
No, thank you very much. But the way I see it is that one day, if I were to stop what I'm doing, then I think it's the moment to say, okay, was that successful or not? Because, you know, it goes very fast. Suddenly we have a bad year and then all the magic is gone. So maybe where the stars aligned with me, that I was a young racing driver that didn't have the means and didn't have the base in karting to make it as a racing driver. I went into finance and into investments, and this is all about people, putting the right people together and finding the right jockey for the horse, and it's about psychology. And I think this is where I was able to put what I have learned 20 years together in an environment where I emerged my passion and what I've learned.
My experience in life, if there are 5 people you really trust implicitly, that's more likely to become 4 than 6, because people can let you down. But do you trust each other implicitly, would you say?
I think so.
Yeah. We must, because if we weren't, we will, over the course of a season, have a situation where the trust is being tested. And I think sometimes where the targets don't align, we can talk about that. We can say openly, with the targets didn't align. You had that target, and me representing the team had another one. And
obviously the cars are pretty similar to last year. We've got a lot of continuity. Red Bull and Ferrari beating their chest about how good they're going to be. The young bucks, the young pretenders to your throne, they want to dethrone King Lewis. Max Verstappen, Charles Leclerc are coming for you. Are you guys looking in your rear view mirrors?
I think we're always looking ahead. There's nothing we can do. We don't know firstly what they have in store for us at the moment. All we can do is focus on what's ahead of us and take one step at a time. And I think, you know, yesterday we just had a group meeting. It's always amazing and really inspiring to see firstly all the individuals that are in the team talk we had. And then when they take us through the car and what they've been working on over the winter, it's all fascinating. And like Toto said, we kind of forgotten what's happened already last year, and we're now back to square one, and we're back almost, you know. Yeah. And we're wondering, okay, where can we pull out a little bit more from this engineer? Where can we pull a little bit more out the aero area and all these different things? So we don't get caught up. I think, I speak for both of us, we don't get caught up wondering what Ferrari are doing or what Red Bull. They can talk all they want. I think the way I've been brought up is just to do my talking on the track, and I think that's generally what we do.
Exactly. The talking, if you do the talking on the track. It's the lap time that counts, and not the talking before, during, or after the events. Many people mistake that you need to play some kind of media game. That we don't do that at all.
But the law of diminishing returns. You're a 6-time world champion. You're 35 years old. You said just recently that you're on another level mentally and physically. The team have won the last 6 championships. Where have you got to go? Where can you go to be even better?
It's like that song, the only way is up.
Yeah.
No.
Self-development.
What's left?
But you can always improve. Yeah. You can always improve. We didn't win every race last year. There are areas that we stumbled, and there's so many elements that it's got to be one of the most complex sports in the world, isn't it?
Oh, for sure.
You know, there are so many things back that are going on. The stresses that Toto's having in terms of running all these people, such a large group of people, and then also having to deal with drivers, which are obviously even more complex characters. And then it's a long season, but there's always areas where we can improve. And as a driver, for me, and ultimately, how I can improve the communication with my group, particularly my group of mechanics, to help push them forward, the guys back at the factory who are pushing and keeping them motivated, saying the right things, coming with the right energy, but also as a driver, just delivering even better, more impactful, more concise performances.
So it's not technique. You're not going to change the way you go about driving the race car, because that's
every year I do.
Do you really?
Yeah, every year I do, and even through the season, the techniques evolving. It's not just one. You always, this year, for example, we've got the same tyres as last year, but last year the whole year was an issue. So there's still subtle techniques which I'm going to have to adapt with also a different car. And that's a part of the game, is being able to be adaptive. And you know, we've got this new car. I don't know how it's going to handle. Hopefully, she's great.
It's not going to be too shabby, is it? You're not going to drive it around the track and think, oh no.
That's what we did last year.
Really?
The first test, which you thought we had sandbagging, it was not nice to drive.
Was it surprising you? Was it?
Yeah, she didn't want to do what we wanted to do, and we struggled. And it wasn't. We did a lot of great work, I think, over those days. And the last one, we got it into a sweet spot. And it unlocked a huge amount of potential, and also then the guys had to go back to the drawing board, and there was so much work that went on in the background which people don't know about. And that journey was so special when we look back.
Yeah. And you're going, all these people, all this budget, all this resource we spent, and the car doesn't work. Why?
It was an interesting dynamic, because we knew that between the first test and the second test we will bring so much updates that there was almost a second between car number 1 and car number 2. And then so the first test was always but wait, we're gonna put the real stuff on the car. And then we did the second test, and from the first outing it wasn't faster. It was almost exactly the same, and the aerodynamicists could read more downforce, but it wasn't. We couldn't translate it. And then Lewis was actually the one pushing the setup direction into an area that we didn't feel comfortable in putting the car, and quite some resistance. But between all of us, we know each other so well. Then at the end, what we did to the car suddenly unlocked the potential, and then the engineers looked at the data and said, okay, then we need to go back to the drawing board, because the car feels happier in a different place than what we thought it would. And that was so difficult, because we didn't know what to expect from Melbourne. Did we luck out on the last day of testing that suddenly the lap time was there?
It's amazing, with all of the data, how much of an unknown there still is. What is the upside for Mercedes-Benz? How much upside do you have?
I looked at some data today, and you could see the audiences that we were able to generate, and the advertising value for Mercedes and all the partners on the car. And in 2012, we had an advertising value of, believe it or not, 60 or 70 million euros, dollars that is. And today we're at 4.5 billion. And that has unlocked so much potential. And a Mercedes today is perceived as a sporty car. It wasn't 10 years ago. And of course, the road cars you buy, the AMG cars and the electric vehicles, all that, they have an edge. We have become a really cool brand. But I think we have played our part in helping the brand to change its image by being in Formula One, by being successful, and triggering some emotion, because fundamentally this is what you want to trigger with all your marketing activity, and emotion, and this is what we do.
2021, have you done a deal yet?
No, we haven't sat down and talked yet. It's crazy because there's all these talks in the media and everything.
we can do it now.
I have a certain approach normally, in the sense that I don't stress. I mean, I trust Toto, and I think we have that trust between us. So we've said we've told each other basically what our goals are and what our aims are and our commitments, and so there's I don't ever feel there's necessarily always a rush, but then sometimes Toto's like, oh, yeah, is everything okay? So we just always keep the channel open, and I'm sure in the near future we'll start to sit down, but I don't feel stressed with it,
It's because we know actually what we want to
take a sharp intake of breath there was
that's the psychology of Freud. I texted Luis the other day, I think a week ago or 10 days. I'm reading all these comments in the press about our negotiations, that Luis is asking so much money. We have never talked about it. It's all made up. And then I said, well, maybe we should sit down one day and have the chat. But I think I know so well where he's going to go. You know where I am.
Yeah.
It's about finding a day where we spend a few hours together. And that's what we've done in the past.
So is it the big number then? Is that the thing that's got to be discussed, or is it also I want the M&Ms without the red ones, in my dressing room?
No, that's usually kind of the easier phase of it. It's the tiny details, people complain about or comment about the life that I live, this extravagant life. I just work a lot. But when I joined the team, I had opened up doors to be able to do things like I'd have partnership with Tommy. If we hadn't had this earlier discussion, Tommy wouldn't be a part of our team. I wouldn't be able to do the great thing that I'm doing. I've got a fashion show coming up, and that's a really important thing for me. So just small bits we have to tweak here and there, which enable those things, which then don't take away from the primary goal, which is to win world titles. So, and then every year your life is moving and shifting, and your plan for your next 5 years is always different. Obviously I'm going into potentially like my last period of time, mostly the last period of time in my sport, and I want to, of course, you want to maximize financially, but it's more about results. It's about the journey and obviously the destination and the other things that you're doing also that complement that.
You manage yourself, don't you? With these, you don't have anybody getting involved in these conversations.
No, I mean naturally I have a small team, people that I put together that I bounce ideas off. And then I run them past Toto, then come back and forth, we go away, think about it, and then last time it was done in my apartment in Monaco. It was like, how many hours was it? It was like
10. He locked me in there. Then we had a pizza.
But you owned 30% of the team, so if you pay him a big number, then 30% is coming from your pocket.
I know, we have that respect that I know which contribution Lewis brings to the team as a driver and as a brand. And you always need to respect that and respect that a sports...
4.5 billion was the number. Did you make a note of that earlier? The value?
Don't worry, he sent me that number already a few weeks ago. I sent another one this morning.
He did send that one. He sent one to me last night.
What numbers?
It was reflecting some figures and stuff.
Yeah, we're starting to approach each other.
The softening up process.
I knew it was a psychological thing, and he's sending that to me, and I didn't reply.
I knew. As a sports person, has in the sports activity a shelf life, and I totally acknowledge that as a racing driver you can probably go until you're 40 and at your peak, and then I have no doubt that with Lewis there will be another career, whatever that may be, and that's why I respect that there needs to be a financial component. And that is important. This is about putting money to the side for the ventures in the future to come. On the same side, Lewis knows the limitations of the team and where we need to put the money, and the Daimler is not in an easy situation today, and that's why almost we enter in the discussion, we know where it's going to end, and we never had it. The money was never a point.
Yeah, and unlike, I think, you're asking how Toto's done so well. I think other managers have generally been quite narrow-minded in a lot of things, and perhaps no one else would allow me to do, for example, the thing I do with Tommy, which is not conflicting to any of the brands. If anything, it helped elevate us.
Yeah.
We brought a little bit of color. Before we were a black and white team, and now we have colors on our shirts. Which was not a Mercedes way in the past. But even Mercedes are kind of becoming a more flexible and a more appealing brand, and I think that's only been good for us.
Well, it obviously keeps you fresh. All the dynamics of your life work for you, don't they? Because you just keep delivering, so nobody can argue with that. But you can be a Mercedes-Benz ambassador for the rest of your life. Mm-hmm. But don't you fancy doing a Michael Schumacher and try to see if you can win in a Ferrari?
I think that's like a short. It's kind of like a short-term kind of thing. If you look at all drivers that have driven for Ferrari, obviously it's an incredible team, and obviously the car's always beautiful. Red is, I've got red on my helmet. Red is the color of passion and love, or whatever you want to say. I've never seen what Mercedes have done for all their drivers. If you look at even Sterling Moss was still a part of the team, they honor that, and you become a part of a legacy and a lifelong partner, which I think is super appealing. And a lot of the plans that Mercedes have moving forward, which something that's really important for me is sustainability and the impact that we're having. Our footprint, for example, we're working very closely in how we can bring and be the pioneers within Formula One to be the carbon neutral team, work with Mercedes with their goal by 2030. Is it
2039? I think it's completely carbon free.
Yeah, to really be the leaders and the pioneering leaders in that, and I want to be a part of that, you know. So it's naturally we all have to be aligned, and I think we have that.
So the question is, can Mercedes be stopped? Can somebody bring their dominance to an end? Red Bull, maybe? Ferrari? The only problem with Ferrari is that they're starting to slip away. But let's see how it goes. And I guess we won't have to wait much longer because there's gonna be another race this weekend. Next on the Formula One circuit is the Hungarian Grand Prix. Practice starts tomorrow, qualifying is on Saturday, and then the main race is on Sunday. And all this action is live on Supersport, your world of champions.